Good morning, and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care and Advanced Audiology. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Jean Dorio,
on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of quality of life, our first guest this morning is Rick Ferante, and he is with Home Care Services Santa Clarita.
Good morning.
Welcome.
And happy holidays here coming up. Good
Happy
Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
And then Merry
Christmas. So
Merry
we've got
Christmas.
a short week here, but a lot going on. I'm sure everybody, if people aren't in traffic right now, they will be, right?
They are in traffic along the 5. It's pretty hectic already, the escape.
Hectic there. What about here?
Yeah, just in town, right?
Parking places.
Mm-hmm.
So came in. Obviously, this is the time we stop and think about other things other than your sort of run of the mill stuff. And around the holidays, we get quite a few panicked calls. We get quite a few calls that are sort of frustrating in nature, and it's one of those times where whatever situations are happening with people become elevated or sort of escalate as a result of the holidays. There's more people, there's more stuff going on. And so I thought we'd talk a little bit about what some of the things that we've seen, and some of the things that I think not just the families and themselves and overall can do, but seniors themselves to kind of take control of these situations and control the environment around the holidays, Thanksgiving and the Christmas and New Year's and so on, so that it's perhaps a little less stressful and a little less maybe argumentative, that kind of thing around those holidays. So that's kind of what I was wanted to talk about this morning. And we had talked just before we got on the air about maybe taking some control. I think a lot of times in holiday situations, and I'll just go into my own family and my own recollections of how things go, and maybe you guys can tell me, we have just this plethora of traditions, right? Now, they're big and small. They're, we always, and you might not call them traditions, but they really kind of are that.
And they are.
Yeah,
yes.
We always do this.
They are traditions.
We always go here. We always have this to eat.
And that's tradition.
Right?
Year after year after year.
And I think what it does sometimes is create its own stress that doesn't necessarily need to be there. I am one of these that's perhaps... Traditions are great. They're fun, and they help you, you look and you get some cohesiveness there, but they can be a real problem when they sort of take over. So instead of maybe necessarily following every single tradition that's out there, when we're getting a little older, maybe we're getting a little tireder, maybe we need some new traditions. Maybe we need something to kind of break this mold instead of trying to fit our lives into something. And then, when we're all done with the holidays, go, boy, that was a lot of stress. That was tough. Right. What are some traditions for you guys? Barbara,
well, a tradition that Russ and I always had is every Thanksgiving and every Christmas, everybody came to our house. Mm-hmm. I did all the cooking. Mm-hmm. And all of the setting up of all the different chairs and what have you. And also did the same thing for Christmas. I would decorate the house to the nines. I mean, everything was everywhere. Mm-hmm. Even I had these beautiful scenic houses all over my hearth that actually came out into the living room proper. Mm-hmm. And my son had built these wooden platforms for me, so I had them just perfectly, and dare anyone to touch them.
And you don't want to lose that, right? You want to have everybody come over. I don't think this is a function of one, you or your family not wanting to do that. But I would also imagine that cooking gets tough.
It did. Well, I had some quite severe health issues 4 years ago, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'll never be able to do it this year.
So who took control?
My daughter took control. She lives in Palmdale.
And that can happen.
And yes, she just turned 58. And she's a very active 58. She teaches.
So is
she's
she
at
going
there.
to, tomorrow, are you going to your daughter's place or will you
Yes.
be, oh, okay.
Yes.
So the tradition,
tradition
has
has changed.
transferred
Yes.
from your place and you relinquished it because of illness, but it was transferred. But what about those, Rick, seniors in our community where the tradition has been lost? Not lost because they've given up on it, but lost because family members have become ill, family members have passed away or moved away, and a lot of the tradition that they've had is gone, and that emotional and psychological loss is affecting them. And that's what I see as our major problem with our seniors in this community.
So we have a balance, right? So we have traditions that can affect us negatively, right? At the same time, we want those traditions, we want those things that we've been doing forever to be there because of what you just said, Dr. Dorio, which is the loss of it also has an emotional attachment. There's emotional attachment, so that loss of that makes it really difficult emotionally. And my suggestion is this, look, we can fight all we want, but that's what ends up happening. You're kind of fighting through it, either mentally or and physically, that kind of thing, fighting through that to try to retain something, or try to keep elements of something, but allow some change. The life changes, and we go through this all the time with any age, right? So your kids, they, first we're always there, then they have their own families, and they've got their splitting time between two different families, they've got the in-laws and they're, that whole thing, and they've got their own kids, that kind of thing. So you end up with this changed environment regardless. So you could fight it, go, no, I want everybody coming over. Or you could say, hey, let's start a new bit of tradition. Now, we always do, serve this meal, and we do that for purposes of that tradition, but maybe my granddaughter can come over and I'm going to teach her how to do it. And yeah, everybody can come over here, or my daughter or whatever. And the tradition here is not just me doing this. We're Superman, I'm doing everything. But now this tradition is, there's elements of here that have been retained, but there are elements here that are new that just take into consideration the new realities. And then you don't go from all to nothing, right?
But
So
you
then-
have to, the word that I use with our seniors is adapt. They have to be able to recognize that the traditions that we have been tweaked. And sometimes you might not have turkey for Thanksgiving. You might have something else. Might have a chicken or ham. And the 1 year when I made the turkey, after that for the next few years at our house, we didn't have turkey because I didn't make a good turkey. So that tradition, now it's back, so we got a turkey tomorrow, and we'll start very early. And, I did the cleaning today. We don't do what Barbara does, but, we got sometimes kids coming over, so, they can touch everything they want. We usually put the important things away, but we just get things straightened up and try to still follow some tradition. But tomorrow, for instance, we'll have 12 people over, and there's only one person that will be related to Robin or me. That's my mom. But that's it. But everybody else is, and many of them are part of our tradition that we have over as well. But, we're all one big family anyway, not related, but one big family, and we use that tradition and adapt to it when we have to.
How does that happen that none of them are related to you except your mom?
Because we've had people over before and we continue to invite them. So
now, who are these
everybody
people?
else,
They're
three daughters are, oh yeah.
Oh, you're talking
here in
about
Santa
your
Clarita.
daughters.
Yeah, they're all out doing their own thing now.
So
and
they've developed a
they're
nutrition.
Yeah, so we had to adapt to the new way that we do things. And actually, this will be the first time that we've had a Thanksgiving without any of them. So now, we're hoping, and Christmas might be the same thing, but fact is that we've adapted to that by continuing to do what we've done so we won't lose that tradition that we've had. And if I make the turkey tomorrow and it's another bus, that could change everything for next year.
With our clients a lot, we sort of counsel them a lot of times because they're going through these things that you're talking about, these changes and adaptations and so on, and it's stressful to try and go through that. And one of the things we tell them is, look, take control of that. When you're talking about anything that you're doing, say it's the medical, and we've talked about this before, taking control of your own medical, your own health and your own and everything that's going on. Take control. Don't let it just happen. So get out in front of it. So if the change or adaptation that you're talking about, Dr. Dorio, is, we need to do something a little differently in a different time, in a different place, with different people, take control of it yourself and say, instead of just hoping that everything kind of falls into place and happens the way I like it, go out and take control of this and say, what I would like is to make sure that these elements are still there. I would like to make sure that these, things happen the way they are. And I know, and I'm going to adapt to some of these changes. But for those listening and those seniors listening, go take control yourself and to say, okay, here's the way this is going to work, and I would like this to work, right? You're right, I can't do the turkey or I can't do whatever it is, but I would like somebody come over here and learn from me so that this gets that I have some help. I have some hands in the kitchen here, and I will sit on a chair and instruct them with my glass of wine. So you're taking whatever it is that's important to you, that we had talked about a minute ago, that is important to retain, but adjusting it. But you take control and adapt that. Don't just wait for it to happen, because when you do that, then there's some frustration there later on, where
absolutely.
Later in the holiday, and you're coming and you're looking at it the day after Thanksgiving, going, we know that I wish I could have X, Y, and Z. Accept it, adapt, and then you make the change. I think is an important thing.
When I talked with my mother this morning, she makes the mashed potatoes, but she can't make the mashed potatoes at home anymore and bring them up. We unfortunately had to turn the gas off on her stove because of very practical reasons on our part and even her part. So when I called her this morning, she still was of the thought that she was going to make mashed potatoes at home. And I said, but you can't make them. And she thought about it for a minute and she said, okay, well, I'll make mashed potatoes at your place then.
Right? New tradition.
For her.
Oh, no,
Come on over.
Adapted right away. She
Very
just
good.
turned that corner real quick and said, no. Okay, so and then she put me through, do you have potatoes, and what kind do you have, and what do you have, butter, and da-da-da-da. She's going through all these things, and but she was already adapting and figuring out how she was going to do her chore for Thanksgiving tomorrow, even though she couldn't do it at home.
Now you have to adapt.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I'm
It's not
okay.
just her.
No, I was, that was a part of my thought that she was going to be making the mashed potatoes at our place. So, but she was already one step ahead of me making the suggestion this morning. So I was already there at home plate waiting for her.
I think the
That's
lesson out
wonderful.
there is,
That's wonderful.
for the seniors listening, is literally saying, look, what was important here? It's not that I'm sitting doing all this stuff. What was important here is she was contributing, to the whole thing. She had a part of it. You liked that fact that she had a part of it, and nobody'd change a thing if everything was the same. But things do change, but who decided? You talked it through, but it was her idea.
Oh, she took
says,
control
hey, look,
right away. But she
control
knew,
this.
But this is how I was brought up. With two parents that continually in their life had to adapt, and they just, as we were growing up, we had to adapt too. So we were always looking, when that tradition or whatever the way we were doing things were changing, we had to just make sure that we could have options to still continue to move forward. There was not one step lost in our discussion this morning. She was already making mashed potatoes in her kitchen tomorrow for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So you've got, there is a kind of a real conscious effort to do these things. This isn't just kind of let them happen. And I think all of us probably have our little bits here that are similar but different kind of stories and different things. A lot of it too is travel. So when we're a little bit younger, we can get on the road and go for God knows how long, right? In this traffic, and back and forth. And maybe that travel, instead of always being at this place, which, yeah, it's comfortable. It's always at that place. But maybe that needs to change as well, just to try to accommodate the travel of somebody who just can't get in the car and go that far. And it's a safety thing and the whole bit. But let's not fight it and get in that kind of argument.
AM 1220 KHTS, your hometown station.
Let's try to figure out. Let's come up with something new. That's part of my message here. Is new can be good. You kind of incorporate all of it. So it wasn't that we're going to go and get mashed potatoes from someplace else. It was just you're making them here. You're kind of a compromise. We do. It reminds me. We did the same thing with half of my family. We're Mexican, so we make tamales. It's a big thing. Tamales at Christmas. You guys ever seen tamales being made? I mean, it is labor intensive.
That's
boy.
right.
Right?
I've watched it.
It's horrible.
Unbelievable. But they are so
They're delicious,
good.
right?
Oh my God.
But then
you sure
when
you don't want to invite me
Yeah,
over?
right. Yeah, believe me, you won't. You'll be
She'll
coming
adapt.
back.
She'll adapt
She'll
real
adapt.
fast.
Yeah, our adaptation here is Cochrans are all coming over there for the tamales. Well, they are, and here's the thing: nobody wanted to change that because yes, they're delicious, and yes, everybody, and it was part of it was while you're cooking them, the camaraderie, right, and then the sisters, but the sisters were all getting to the point where it was really tough on them, right, in terms of physically. So it was a challenge to try to figure that out of what we're going to do. So what we did is we ended up, okay, we're going to go buy the tamales instead because it just wasn't but they controlled it and said, okay, we're going to make some of the sauces. Okay, we're going to do some of these different sauces that, maybe we didn't do before or whatever. It's a new tradition. So they did some of the sauces, kind of incorporate what's going on. And by the way, you go down to San Fernando Road down there in Glendale, those tamales those ladies make are just as good. We had a great time. And since then...
it's the effort, and that's the important part, and the contribution that you're making to the meal. So, I agree. I've had outstanding tamales and, and bought them in places where they're outstanding as well. But, doing it at home and keeping that tradition up and putting the effort in makes a huge difference when you know that someone in your family has just made part of a meal that you love.
So the message here for me is, and this is the message to the seniors themselves, the whole family, kind of, because it requires a whole family, like you were talking about, Dr. Dorio, to kind of incorporate this. But seniors take control.
You're talking to
Absolutely.
seniors.
Let's take control.
But
Let's take control of this kind of environment so those traditions and those elements you want in there remain. But we make some new traditions.
But the last thing I just want to mention, though, Rick, is one important part. Some of our seniors might be spending Thanksgiving alone, and they don't take control, and they're sitting at home. And I just want to put out to the Santa Clarita community how important it is for all of us to recognize, for those people who might be alone tomorrow, invite them to your meal.
Absolutely.
Open a seat up so they can be there and start some new traditions, maybe with your family. We're a great community here. We give a lot. We give charity-wise in so many ways. But recognition sometimes in moments where we have that tradition might be lost. So be on the lookout for those seniors in Santa Clarita who might not have a place to go tomorrow.
On the other hand, those seniors who are alone, pick up the telephone, call a friend, call a relative, sit and chat for a few minutes. It's amazing how much a telephone call will make to you
control,
and
right?
to the person receiving the call.
And let's start some new traditions that way.
That's right.
Right? So
Exactly. You
next year we
don't-
talk about some of those.
That's right. And you don't have to, you may be physically alone, but emotionally and psychologically, you don't have to be alone. You have to learn how to reach out and touch, because you'd be amazed at how much that touching helps someone else.
No
Great
doubt
advice.
about it.
Don't you agree?
That's why
Great
it's
advice.
called Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
There you are.
New traditions for Santa Clarita. Let's do it.
Absolutely. And I think we have to take a break. And
Thank
we
you,
will
Rick.
see you
Happy Thanksgiving
next
to you.
month.
Happy Thanksgiving to you
Yes,
guys
and
very
have a
much, and
nice
everybody
one.
out there. And yes, we'll see you next month.
Yes, I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.